Welcome to another edition of the Insider Mailbag. I'm Jared Johnson, and we have a bunch of really good questions. It's the Big 12 opener. Texas Tech takes on Texas in Austin, 11 a.m. Central Time, Saturday, there at DKR, Texas Memorial Stadium. So, it's a big week. A lot of really good questions, so let's dive right into them. First one comes from Tech MS ACPA, who asks, he says, can you believe Tech has only allowed 164 yards total rushing in non-conference play? Yeah, Tech's off to a 3-0 start, and of course those opponents were Houston, Stephen F. Austin, and Florida International, so not heavyweights exactly. Although Tech was the underdog against Houston in Houston. But to answer your question, well, on one hand, it's Texas Tech, so am I surprised that they've been so stout against anyone against the run? Well, historically, or at least let's say this century, yes, that's very surprising. But here in recent history, Tech has been better against the run. And then, you're an insider, you've been on the board, you've heard me talking throughout the offseason about how I'm a big fan of the depth, the experience, and just the talent, overall talent of the defensive front. It goes without saying at the linebacker position. I mean, we know they have a bunch of seniors, guys who've done it before, highly respected guys, at least a couple of guys that are probably going to be playing on Sundays. Really good players. So, and like I said, there's depth, which has helped a lot. But it's not just at linebacker, also the defensive line. You have experienced, talented players, guys who can get the job done, who aren't being pushed around. They're not being, moved out of the hole. They're holding up at the point of attack. And not only that, but there's times where like a Jalen Hutchings or Devin Drew or Philip Bleedeye or, Tony Bradford, where they've made, some big plays this season. So now the next challenge comes, is for this group to do it against a Big 12 school. Obviously a really talented team in Texas, though. How talented is their offensive line? I know they have some concerns in Austin about that group, just like all of us here in Lubbock have, or most of us here in Lubbock have, about Texas Tech's offensive line. So it's going to be an interesting matchup because they have some really good running backs. Bijan Robinson's one of the best out there, but it's not just him. They have some really good players. Casey Thompson's also a quarterback who can run. So they're going to have their hands full corralling that whole Longhorn rushing attack. But to answer your question, I'm not surprised that they're off to this great start. Because I've been out to the practice, I've seen them. These are guys I know can get the job done, and considering the competition they're facing, I expected them to dominate the line of scrimmage, and that's exactly what they've done. Raider KA asks, was Cumby sandbagging us with the offense the first two games? I've probably answered this question 4 or 5 times now, and I think it's just a popular thing that fans like to throw out there as an excuse for their offense not executing at the level they were expecting or hoping for. And here's the thing, and do I think they use all the tricks in their bag in the first 2 games? No. But at the same time, I also think, look, they were down, they were trailing in all 3 of the games so far this year. They emerged victorious, but they couldn't really afford, even against Stephen F. Austin, which was a 1-score game, and then went down to the wire. They could not afford to hold too much back. I think what you're seeing in terms of the first 2 games, with especially the first game, I thought they executed well. Was Stephen F. Austin, they didn't execute very well. And I think where you're seeing the inconsistency is the fact that you have a new offensive coordinator, you have a new quarterback, new left tackle. Your starting running back's been out, though Taj Brooks has been great, as has Xavier White for the most part. You have some new pieces in there, and important pieces. That takes a while to mesh. I don't care how long you practice, or the fact that both Cumby, Storman at left tackle, and Shuck at quarterback, all have been there since the spring. Still, that's not like a long time for this thing to come together and work as a well-oiled machine. You're going to have some inconsistent play, especially early on. You hope that they come together and they improve throughout the season, but it will probably be up and down. So. I think it's more of just them learning to play together and figure each other out and figure out their identity than them like Cumby holding things back. But I understand the question. Tech Freak asks, is there any update on future Tech versus UT in non-conference games for the next 25 years? Are you for or against it? As a fan, I personally don't care if Tech plays Texas anymore, but fiscally, this helps the bottom line. So that's good for the Texas Tech's athletic department. It's good for the community here in Lubbock, just Red Raiders in general. So I'm definitely for it. Now, in terms of any update, no. The biggest thing is that, so there was a report that came out, and I'm not sure if it was like, the first one I saw was Don Williams' report, something about 20 or 25 years. UT was asked about it, and their reporters and Chip Brown at Horns 247 reported that they weren't so, UT's admin wasn't ready to say, for the next 20, 25 years, that there has been talks for them to play for several years. But in terms of it being 20 to 25 years, I would be very skeptical of all that until they get it written in blood almost. I would be skeptical because you can't trust anybody out there, that's for sure. And UT has certainly shown that their admin can't be trusted at all, which is fine. All is fair in love and war. But I'm just saying, in terms of you expecting this to be the case, don't do that until the contracts are signed for sure. But I think there will be something in place. How long? We'll have to see. 20, 25 years, that's a heck of a commitment. So we'll see about that. Architect has a question about the board, which I haven't really addressed, but I've dealt with too, so I felt like I would here. I'd go ahead and answer it. I don't want it to be like I was ducking it, but Architect says, what in the hell is wrong with the quote feature? Yeah, there is some bugs, minor things going on. 24/7, I love this about, before I get to the negative, I love that they're always trying to improve things. They're always debugging things on the board, so that way, normally the problems are minor, but there was a couple of days at least where randomly you quote someone on the board and it wouldn't, it was just messed up. It wouldn't work, which was frustrating, of course. I do believe by now, you asked this earlier in the week, by now I haven't seen it be a problem. I think they have fixed it. I was told they had. It's the internet, so crazy things happen, but I really do think they fixed the code and all that. They got rid of that bug, and it's just them trying to improve and kind of the upkeep. Sometimes you do one thing and something else happens. That's just the way it is. But man, 24/7. I'm so glad we're a part of the network. They do a really good job in terms of board upkeep and all that. And that was just a minor flare-up. I understand why it was frustrating, but it was temporary, and I do believe it's been handled. So thank you. Easy DZ Fours says, what are the chances Tech sees more than 60 offensive plays versus UT? Well, they didn't get that in the first two games, but they got 74, 75, something like that against Florida International. And Texas was really affected by tempo against Arkansas. Arkansas really gassed them and pushed them around, was able to run the ball and utilize tempo. And I fully expect Sonny Cumby, which that's part of his plan. He doesn't go tempo all the time, but he will use it sometimes. Now, it seems like with Tech, when they go tempo, it's a wasted play a lot, right? I mean, I know it does seem like that. But if it's effective against Texas, and it has been, then you would think they're going to go back and at least test it. You have to. You have to test and see if Texas has made the necessary adjustments or not. If it still bothers Texas, then 60 is not going to be a problem at all, because they're going to run, obviously, they run tempo, you get more plays in, all that. So I think the smart money in terms of this question is to say, yes, Tech does get 60-plus plays against Texas. TTU Dad 2012 says, do you think Tech's D will do better against the run or the pass against Texas? He says 175 yards rushing versus 275 yards passing. Well, okay, I think in terms of that question, Tech will do better against the pass. Though right now, obviously, Tech's strength is against the run rather than against the pass. But I also think Texas's strength on offense is running the ball instead of passing. So I think it'll feel like, I think because of, a quarterback like Casey Thompson, he'll probably get some yardage in scrambling. I'm going to say they go over 175, but definitely under 275 in passing. So, I mean, I think they'll probably run for around 200 and throw for around 200, somewhere around there, 200, 250 in passing. So, yeah, it's going to be all about who punches it in the end zone when they get their opportunities, who takes care of the football better. who's the more efficient offense. I think that's really what it's going to come down to. And then defensively, when you get an opportunity to come up with turnovers, I mean, you got to make them. I mean, if there's a ball in your hands, you got to secure it. Those those plays, those small moments or quick moments, really, I feel like are going to be the difference between victory or defeat, and what I believe is going to be a close game, another close game in this series here. Nas Raider asks, have you identified the type of bug that was in the press box last week? Yeah, for those of you kind of following along with us last week, and definitely who we talked about it in the day after podcast. I mean, we were attacked. We were infested with bugs in the press box. I've been covering games at Tech for almost a decade now, and been to a lot of games there, and we've had some bugs in there, but not like this. I mean, the entire front row of the press box moved up because it was so bad. I mean, Sean Dillon, our producer at the Rock and Pregame, the radio show, I do, he was killing them. He hates insects, looks like as much as I do, but he had like a graveyard lined up, it was almost like, you watch those old Vietnam movies and they have like the cut off ears necklace. He had that kind of thing lined up where he had like dozens of dead bugs, and they were just falling down from the ceiling on us and everything. It was terrible. Anyways, the type of bugs, there are multiple different types of bugs. The most prevalent one was these like little black beetles, and I don't know what the right names are for these bugs, but there was a stink bug, some stink bugs on there too, those green bugs, and then there was some just alien looking things that I've never really seen before that were kind of joining in on the party, crashing the party. So it was disgusting. Texas Tech, I'm not just kissing butt here, I'm being honest. Texas Tech treats us very well up there. I think the timing of it happening, there wasn't really a whole lot they could do. Hopefully they have some time here. Tech's on the road 2 weeks in a row. Hopefully that won't be a problem in the next game, when I guess October 9th, when Tech hosts TCU. But yeah, it was one of the more interesting press box moments or games in my life. And I've been to press box all over the state and the region, multiple states: Oklahoma, Arkansas, Texas, whatever, Louisiana. Been in a lot of press boxes, and that was, I'll never forget it. That way, I'll never forget it. So there's something to be said for that, I guess. Texas Tech Austin says, Saturday is my birthday. Well, let me go ahead and tell you, happy birthday. These mailboxes are dropped on Fridays. So early happy birthday to you. I hope you have a lot of fun this weekend. Maybe Texas Tech will give you quite the birthday present here. His question is, he says he lives in Austin and has a UT buddy that wanted him to go to the game. He decided that he could enjoy the hell of a win at home with a couple of friends drinking beer, smoking ribs, and floating in the pool while watching the game. But a loss surrounded by arrogant UT fans would be a miserable way to spend my birthday. What would I have done strictly from a fan perspective? Well, see, here's the thing: I don't want to sound, obnoxious about this, but I go to a lot of games for a living, and I have, and especially when I was with the Fort Star Telegram, I would go to multiple high school games a week. Normally I'd cover a college game on Saturday, and then I'd cover the Cowboy game on Sunday. So I got, honestly, this sounds terrible, but the crowds and everything, and then of just being there, I feel like I missed out on the fan experience of being home, having your own bathroom, eating good food, drinking good beer that's cheaper than bad beer at the stadium and all that, and my late wife, she was an amazing cook, so she would always make amazing food. And then, or you go over to a friend's house who's cooking out, or you cook something out at your house. It's hard to beat. So for me, I almost always would choose staying home. Now, in terms of going to UT games, I've been to, the last one I didn't go, I guess, to the last two, but I was there in 2015. That was the let's see, what's the PC way? Little person, big world game when Jakeem had that trick play. I was there for that. I was there in 2013 as well. I also went to a couple games in the 90s. So I was there when Tech has won. Been there when Tech's got their butts kicked. From and then as a reporter, that perspective. I've been there as a fan when Tech's got their butt kicked. I think one year I actually wore a Red Raider Outfitter shirt that it was the year that Tech, when we ripped down the goalpost, and I was at that game against A&M there at the Jones, and so I had the T-shirt and I wore it to the Tech UT game in Austin, and every fan there, because it was like, Tech lost by like 5 or 6 touchdowns. It was just a total blowout from beginning to the end. Wasn't ever competitive. And, like you said, arrogant UT fans, which I had it coming wearing that shirt, but boy, they let me have it. Everybody and their dog, you're not ripping down goalposts this game. Ha, ha, ha. We're not the Aggies, blah, blah, all of this stuff. And people were like challenging me to fights and stuff. You would have thought I said like, FUT on my shirt or something. It was putting down the Aggies, but and I was like around 20 at that point and didn't have that good of a temper. Let's put it that way, or a very good job of handling my temper. So it's a miracle I didn't get into a million fights during that day, but I didn't. But it was a miserable time for sure. So I completely understand you not wanting to spend your birthday that way. Of course, it would be amazing, to be there and for a big Tech win. There is electricity for Tech winning in Austin. Something to be said for it, which like I said, I've been present for. So, but from strictly as me being a fan, like there's no way. Only way I'm going to a game now, like I'm taking my boy Lucas to his first NFL game. I'm taking him to the Cowboys and Broncos game on Tech's first bye week, which isn't until November 7th. But the Cowboys are playing the Broncos at a noon game, so I'm hoping, because NFL games aren't really for kids, but he loves the NFL. Y'all know I'm a huge Cowboys fan, and he's not there in the Metroplex getting inundated with the Cowboys stuff like I would like. You got to get him young, so I'm taking him to that game in hopes that it won't be too rowdy for a noon game, but we'll see. I've been to some pretty rowdy noon Cowboy games, but other than that kind of scenario, I'm staying home. I'm drinking my beer, using my bathroom, eating good food. I got a 70-something inch TV. You know what I mean? You get replay. You're not beholden to you can rewind it. You're not beholden to the replay at the stadium, which you show it half the time. So I'm probably the wrong person to ask, but I will say this: I have been to some games as some fans here. Like I went to a Tennessee-Florida game, 5 years ago, there in Tennessee, and that was a blast. The atmosphere is amazing. There is something to be said for going to a really good, epic game and being there in person, especially if your team wins. So, but that's the rub, right? All right, next question comes from Mid Raider, who says, "What are the biggest differences in the offense that we have seen so far with Coach Cumby?" Yeah, it's what I've seen, or what I saw in fall camp too, is that they are going to come out in multiple formations compared to just strictly 11 personnel like we saw from Coach Yost. They are going to use motion more, which they did more against Florida International than they did previously, I believe. But again, they had more plays. And I don't know if this is personnel or if it's the coach or both or what, but they are taking more deep shots. I mean, I think they've already taken more deep shots through 3 games than they did all last year. Now, that might just be the fact that you have a quarterback who could actually throw the ball down the field. Alan Bowman could not get the ball down the field. Now, early in his career, he was consistently accurate, and he had some really good receivers, tall and big receivers to get the ball to. But Shuck, the arm strength comparison, I mean, there is no comparison between those two. So it might just be personnel, but then again, I mean, the plays are being called and are out there, and they're not calling off the dogs. They're not making them stop throw those deep passes. So the biggest difference, I think, is they're more aggressive in pushing the ball down the field. They're getting the tight ends more involved in the passing game. I mean, I don't know how many touchdowns tight ends had all last year, but I think maybe just like 2 or 3. And they had 3 against Florida International alone, with Kuntz getting 2, and then Mason Tharp, finally showing off that athleticism and that ability as a very huge, extremely huge target at 6'9", 255 pounds, with that touchdown catch he had against Florida International. So, tight ends are actually being utilized in the passing game. They are pushing the ball down the field. The tempo isn't, they don't run as much tempo, but they will run tempo. That's in the arsenal. More motion and more different formations, multiple formations. All right, Two Poodles says, "What is your confidence level in Tyler Shuck? So far, if he's as good as touted, he seems like he's holding back or playing very cautiously." I mean, I couldn't disagree with you more, actually. Now, I want to preface this by saying, look, Texas Tech as a fan base has been really spoiled with the type of quarterbacks they've had. I mean, over the last 20-something years. This is, even before that, but certainly in the air raid era, I mean, And then, I mean, look at even in the worst of times, you had arguably the best quarterback of a generation in Patrick Mahomes. So this fan base has been really spoiled with quarterback talent. But look, Tyler Shuck right now is amongst national leaders in passer efficiency, passing yards, completion percentage, passing touchdowns. He's also, I believe, he's second in the Big 12 in passer efficiency. Leads the Big 12 in passing yards per game. Is second, tied for second in touchdown passes in the Big 12. And he's thrown less interceptions than both Jarrett Doege and Brock Purdy, two veteran Big 12 quarterbacks. So, and the same amount of interceptions as Spencer Rattler. So, you know, I said coming into the season, extremely talented, big arm. He can run, which he's shown both of those things. He does have some experience, but I say he's going to have some growing pains. There's going to be some ups and downs, and we've seen that. I mean, he played almost flawless football against Houston, and they won. Against Stephen F. Austin, he struggled mightily. I mean, there's no doubt. I mean, too many turnovers, pick six. Just you can't do it. You can't have it. But then last week, you know, roller coaster. Houston and then SFA, and then Florida International. He had a career game, almost 400 yards, 4 touchdowns, no turnovers. I mean, I don't know what exactly the expectations were for Tyler Shuck, but he is among the national leaders in multiple passing categories. His team is undefeated, and he's shown off all the talent and ability, and all his teammates and coaches swear by, you know, the leadership and the time he puts in. So other than, like, you know, kissing babies and handing out money to people, I don't know what else Shuck could have done. You know, I mean, yes, the game against Stephen F. Austin was ugly, but he overcame. They won. And I think that's just part of his maturation process. I mean, you got to remember, this is only his second year as a starter, and he only started 7 games last year. And then that offensive coordinator was jacking with his confidence by pulling him out when they get in the red zone. So he's a very young, in terms of experience, quarterback still. So I think I guess now he started 10 games. So I think we're going to have to be patient with him this year, but the talent's there. And I think they're going to win games they normally wouldn't, because he's a better quarterback than we've seen around here since Patrick Mahomes in terms of talent and just all the above. So I'm actually super impressed with Tyler Shuck. I think he's doing a great job, and I'm interested to see how he does against Texas, because I think that's going to be a key to the game. I think whichever quarterback plays the more efficient game, takes care of the ball better, and actually punches the ball in for touchdowns when they get their opportunities in the red zone, I think that's the guy who's going to lead his team to victory. So we'll see how he does against Texas. I know that if he struggles, which a lot of really good quarterbacks have struggled against Texas in Austin, but if he does, I'm sure y'all will be back here telling me how wrong I am about him. But I'm pretty confident in what Tyler Shuck can do. Raider Fan 01 says, we've seen this movie before. Get off to a 3-0 non-conference start, and then completely fall apart during conference play. What alternate ending do you see for this movie, or do we see the same old plot? Well, I'll tell you what, their November schedule is really difficult. That's assuming Oklahoma State is pretty good, because they've looked pretty bad, so far. I mean, they're undefeated, but they haven't looked very good. But they're a well-coached team by a veteran group of coaches, so they've been there forever. So for the most part, so I expect them to get better as the season goes along. But that November is like, what is it? Oklahoma, Iowa State, Oklahoma State, and then you have Baylor and Waco. But so that's a tough stretch there. I think it's really important that in this 3-game stretch where you go to Austin, you go to Morgantown, who West Virginia looks better all of a sudden, and then you come home and host TCU. I mean, you got to win at least one of those, right? But if you win 2 of those, man, you're looking at what, 5-1? My math's always sketchy, but I think you're looking at 5-1 there, 2-1 in Big 12. You're feeling really good about your chances. You win one of those, it's kind of okay, well, let's see what happens. But then you have like Kansas coming up, Kansas State, who looks pretty good, even despite some injuries. So the schedule's pretty tough. I mean, it is, but it's still doable. I believe this is a 7-win team. This is what I've thought since spring. This is what I think today. So what that means is I'm predicting they're going to go 4-5 the rest of the way. And that's not the same old story. It's still a losing record in conference, but that's not the same old story. I mean, that's as many wins as Tech has won in total each of the last 2 years. So I think that would be a good building block season. You get to a bowl game, whatever happens in bowl, whatever, we'll see. But that'd be a good building block of a season, in my humble opinion. So, well, that's going to do it for this week. Another amazing round of questions from inside the Red Raiders subscribers. Thank you for those. Thank you for watching, and until next time.